Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the San Francisco Playhouse, to our community's empathy gym. I'm Bill English, Artistic Director, and I'm hailing today from the Washoe Nation, which is indigenous people that lived in the Tahoe Truckee region for the last 1,300 years and still are here. I'm happy to welcome you tonight, especially to the fourth iteration of our Zoomlet series. The Zoomlets got started back in the pandemic when we couldn't gather together, but we did gather remotely, and we would meet every Monday night all summer for these wonderful Zoomlets, which became very, very popular. And then we did one the following winter and the following summer, and this is the fourth iteration of them. The Zoomlet is a very special 1 hour sort of television show, and it features the directors and the actors. It's kind of like being a fly on the wall at the first rehearsal, where the director will meet with me to talk about the play that was selected and the actors they've selected. And then we'll bring the actors in, the director gives notes, the actors read the play, then they talk about what they did. And it's a ton of fun, and we're super excited to be doing it. We thought when we first started out doing these Zoomlets, which were generally original 10-minute plays, that we might run out. And so I approached my great friend Carrie Perloff with the idea of doing something a little different, which was to take a snippet of a great play, and we started calling them Classics Reclassified, because we would pick particularly difficult texts, and then we would bring two great actors or three great actors together into the room to sort of just work out for an hour on this wonderful text. So tonight, I'm thrilled to welcome to our studio, our intercontinental, international studio, television studio at the San Francisco Playhouse, Carrie Perloff. Won't you join me, Carrie?
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Hi, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Nothing better than Ibsen on Valentine's Day. So the intrepid SF Playhouse has given us a wonderful platform to do this process. And they are also performing a fantastic play right now, Heroes of the Fourth Turning. So if you haven't seen that, go see it. I loved it. Tonight, we're working on Ibsen's Ghosts, which I'm thrilled to say I'm actually about to go into rehearsal with live at the Seattle Playhouse. The Seattle Repertory Theater, not the San Francisco Playhouse, the Seattle Repertory Theater, with two wonderful actors whom I would like to introduce to you right now. One is Albert Rubio, who's playing Oswald, and he is zooming in from Seattle. And the other is Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who's playing Mrs. Alving, Helene, and she's zooming in from New York. So Albert and Mary Elizabeth are going to star in this production at Seattle, but they've never met. So this is really reality TV. And I wish I could tell you that it's Valentine's Day, and so you're going to have a love story. But this is a kind of love story. This is a love story between a mother and a son. And I just want to tell you a couple of quick things. And if I'm forgetting anything, Emmy and Albert, remind me, just so the audience knows what the context of the play, the scene we're going to read is. We're going to read a scene between the mother and the son from the second act of the play. And here's all you have to know. Mrs. Alving is quite a free thinker. She's one of those Norwegian women that Ibsen is fascinated by, like Nora in A Doll's House, or Hedda in Hedda Gabler. Bill, you can do you want to put yourself on, block your video out now? Is that good? But she's had a terrible marriage. She was married for many, many years to a man who turns out to have been a real degenerate. And she has a son, Oswald. And in order to protect Oswald from finding out what his father was really like, she sent him away when he was 7 years old. And so she's always felt incredible guilt that she wasn't really a good mother, because she hasn't really raised this child in the bosom of her own home. Oswald is a painter, and a very successful painter. He's a kind of post-impressionist painter. He lives in Paris. He paints beautiful summer landscapes and people happy, and that kind of thing. But clearly something's gone on with Oswald recently. He's unable to work. The reason he's home is that it is 10 years after the death of Captain Alving, and Mrs. Alving has built an orphanage to honor his memory. And her son is there as the celebration for this orphanage. Now, what we have found out in Act 1 is that the whole thing is a complete lie. Her husband was not only a degenerate, he seduced the maid in their household. And she gave birth to a girl who is now Regina, who's the maid in the house now. And at the end of Act 1, Oswald has begun to make love to this girl in the hearing of his mother and Pastor Manders. So it's as if the ghosts of the past have already come back to slam them in the face. End of Act 1, they go off to lunch. You can imagine what a lunch that was like. Everybody's sitting there like statues in a panic. And now in Act 2, the lunch is over. It being Scandinavia, it's 2 p.m. It's already getting dark and pouring with rain. And Oswald has been sitting in the other room drinking. The drinking thing, and I'm not going to ask Albert right now to worry too much about being drunk. We can talk about that, Albert, I think, about how far gone he is, but clearly his tongue has been unleashed. And for Mrs. Alving, let's just remember that her husband was an alcoholic. So to see her son drink is incredibly anxiety inducing to her, but she adores him. Now, they have not had a real conversation of any kind. He's just come home. He's really exhausted. She knows something is wrong, but she can't figure out what it is. And now is the moment that they're going to have a real conversation, right? So the pastor has just gone out. Oh, by the way, after having accused her of having been a bad mother and having told her that it's time to tell the truth, an audience out there listening, one thing I would really listen for, because it's one of the great geniuses of this play, is this question about truth versus illusion. When is it always a good thing to tell the truth? And when is illusion, particularly in and around your children, a better thing than telling them the truth and particularly destroying Oswald's belief in his father? So that's a real question that's going to run through the play. Anything you guys want to ask before we dive in and read? Yeah, go, Emma.
I would like to add, because it's very pointed and it's brought up, that actually what she's done is entered the room and started knitting.
Oh, yes.
That's the direction from Ibsen, that she's knitting, which, by the way, is brought up in another Ibsen play where it might be Hedda Gabler, where she shouldn't be knitting, she should be doing needlework, because real women just do needlework. So no one's going to know that, but Helene is knitting.
But thank you for saying that, because it means she has
done something.
Stanislavski used to call a secondary action. She is doing something to avoid looking him in the eye. And what we sort of start to discover is this thing she's knitting is going to ultimately be like a shroud. Anyway, that's going to come.
That's new. Okay.
Hey, who knew?
Oh, no.
Anything, Albert, from you?
Well, I mean, I just find it really interesting that her and Pastor Manders have had a very, very, very intimate scene before this. And I've been sitting in the dining room the entire time drinking. What have I heard? Have I heard anything? Is, I think, just something to keep in mind as well.
Perfect. So we're going to start with Mrs. Alving telling him he really shouldn't sit so long. And what she means by at table is drinking alone. And I think, unless I get a great idea, I'm just going to let you run with the scene. I'll just take notes along the way. You think of anything that strikes you, and then we'll chat when we get to the end of the scene. Sounds good? Okay, so I'm going to black out my video so you guys can just talk to each other. Have fun.
You really shouldn't sit so long at table, Oswald.
Oh, I can't see this line. I don't see it.
It's about 4 lines in, after you say, where's the pastor gone, etc. And then you say, but it's so lovely to be home. Do you see where that is?
It helps.
What are you looking at, Albert? Because our page numbers might be different.
Yeah, I'm on 48. I was at just having a cigar.
Yeah, that's right. Where's the pastor gone? That's right. You see, yeah, you enter with your cigar. You see right where you enter, Albert.
Oh, you want him there?
And you say, where's the pastor gone?
And
did Pastor Manders leave? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
oh, that's where we're going from. Okay.
Okay, let's try there.
Okay.
Okay, why not? Sorry, here we go.
Thanks, Carrie. Did Pastor Manders leave?
He went down to the orphanage. Oswald, dear, you really should be careful with that. That's quite strong.
Well, it helps against the damp.
Wouldn't you rather come in here with me?
But I'm not allowed to smoke in there.
You know perfectly well cigars are fine.
Where's the pastor gone?
I just told you he's gone down to the orphanage.
Oh, yes, of course.
You really shouldn't sit so long at table, Oswald.
But it's so lovely to be home, Mother. To sit at my mother's table and eat my mother's delicious food.
Oh, my dear, dear boy.
And what else is there to do in this gloomy weather? Not a glimmer of sunlight the whole day. It's not being able to work.
It wasn't such a good idea for you to come home, Oswald.
But Mother, I had to.
Because I would 10 times rather forgo the joy of having you with me than have you be.
But tell me, Mother, is it really such a joy for you to have me home?
It is a joy for me.
Seems to me that it must be pretty much the same to you whether I'm here or not.
How can you say such a thing?
Well, you seem to have had no trouble living without me all this time.
It's true. I have lived without you.
Mother, may I sit with you?
Yes, dear. Yeah, come sit. Oh,
I have something I have to tell you, Mother.
mhm. What is it?
I couldn't bring myself to write you about it since I was coming home.
Oswald, what is it?
If you promise to remain calm, I'll do my best to tell you. You know, I've been complaining about how tired I am after the trip here,
Yeah, yes.
but that's not what's wrong with me. Not exhaustion alone.
You're not sick, are you, Oswald?
No, not really sick, Mother. Not what people generally call sick, but still. I'm ruined. Destroyed. I'll never work again.
Oswald, look at me. Look at me. This can't be true.
Never able to work again. Never. Never. Living as if dead. Mother, can you think of anything worse?
My poor. No, how can such a thing have happened to you?
That's what you don't understand. I've never lived a particularly wild life, not in any respect. You have to believe me, Mother, I haven't.
I believe you, Oswald.
And still this terrible thing happens to me.
It'll be all right. Believe me. Believe me. You've just been working too hard.
I thought so too at first, but that's not it. Shortly after I was home this last time, I started having these violent pains here in the back of my head, like someone was screwing down an iron band. And at first I thought they were just those uncommonly severe headaches, like the ones I had when I was growing up, but they weren't. I couldn't work. I couldn't compose my thoughts. Everything swirled around and around and around, and I tried to start some new painting, but I was paralyzed. It was like my talent had abandoned me. Eventually, I called a doctor, and well, that's how I learned the truth.
What do you mean?
He was one of the foremost doctors in Paris. I told him how I was feeling. And then he started asking me about things that seemed to have no connection. I didn't know what the man wanted.
So?
At last he said, from birth, there's been something rotten inside of you. That was the word he used. Vechmalu. Worm eaten.
What did he mean by that?
I didn't understand either, so I asked him to explain, and the old cynic.
What did he say?
He said, the sins of the father are visited upon the children.
Sins of the fathers.
I nearly hit him in the face.
The sins of the fathers.
Yes.
Hmm.
Just imagine.
Hmm.
Naturally, I assured him that such a thing wasn't possible, but do you think he listened? No, he stuck to his opinion. It was only after I took out your letters and translated all the parts about father for him.
And then?
Well, then he had to admit he was mistaken. And that's when I learned the truth. The stupid, incomprehensible truth. It was all my fault.
No, Oswald. No, you mustn't believe that.
There's no other possible explanation, he said. That's what's so terrible. Everything I wanted to see, everything I wanted to do, everything I wanted to accomplish, just wasted. And bringing all this pain to you, Mother, I've often wished and hoped that deep down you really didn't care so much about me.
Me? Oswald. My son, my only child. You're the only one in the world I care about.
Yes. Yes, I can see that. When I'm home, I can see it. And that's one of the hardest things for me. But now you know. And now I don't want to talk about it anymore. Please, Mother, may I have something to drink?
Drink. What do you want to drink now?
Anything. I'm sure you have something in the house.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop there because they're about to pull the bell cord and get drink, which is not something she ever does. Okay, what an amazing scene. Lots of possibilities there. So thoughts from you all, just, or questions, confusions? What does it feel like on a first read?
It's like so many things have to happen so quick.
Yeah.
And I can see why I totally see why the liquor is like fueling all of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really
interesting, Carrie, because I hadn't thought. I've worked. It's so. By the time you work through the play, and I've gotten to this scene, I'm like so exhausted. That's like tomorrow I'll get to the Oswald scene because it's like,
yeah.
Anyway, but it hadn't dawned on me. I mean, I know he's drinking, but when you just said in our preamble that he's drunk, I thought, oh my God, okay.
Well,
that's great.
We'll
I
figure
also
out.
love the notion, actually, just a silly notion that she's actually not quite sure how to sit next to him.
I think
Like,
that's
I'm sitting
exactly
with
right.
you. It's like, yeah, sure. Well, do I move? Do I get another chair? Do I cover him with the
Yes.
thing? It's just, she's so unaccustomed to, also middle class, I don't know if Norwegian middle class people sent their children away, but it wasn't the most uncommon thing, I suppose. But
I think you're exactly right. That I have a couple of thoughts to just play with.
Yeah.
They are not easy with each other. She adores him, and in a way he sort of adores her, but they've spent very little real time together, particularly with him as an adult. And now it's very awkward, Mary Elizabeth, because you've just had that scene with the pastor. And for you, Albert, I would say from the very beginning, when you come out and say, where's the pastor gone? Just remember, you hate that man. He's a hypocrite and a liar, and you know that he's peddling falsehoods. You've already had one fight with him in the play, so you're a little truculent about him. Now, the second thing I'd say is stay on your front foot. And what I mean by that, particularly for you, Albert, but I think because neither of you quite knows how to behave.
Okay.
You're sort of, do I start talking? Does he start talking? How do we, whatever? There's nothing casual about it, and it doesn't get private. I think for you, Mary Elizabeth, you're just hoping right now to buy a little time and settle your brain. But for you, Albert, you have to tell her what's happening with you. Because the longer arc of the play, which we don't really know yet, but you need to know this as you go in, is because you know that you have this inherited disease, or you believe it's inherited. One of the things you need is help. You're going to need somebody to help you, and you're carrying morphine around. And eventually in the play, you're going to have to ask somebody, Regina or your mother or somebody, to be willing to use that morphine on you when the time comes. So your need is very great, even though you don't necessarily say it well. But I think when you finally get going at the, when you say, but tell me, mother, is it really such a joy? You can unleash a little bit there. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's casual conversation. You are testing her. You are probing. How much does she really love you? What does she really feel about you? What would she do if you asked her to help you? So it's quite active. And for you then, Mary Elizabeth, see what happens to you if he starts to put pressure on you. How does she respond to that pressure? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a play of ambushes. She gets ambushed first in her own home.
That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it. It's a play of ambushes. You're right.
Yeah. So, but what's interesting is, and we can overplay it, which we certainly often do just to find it, is because my instinct, because I am a mother of two sons, these are conversations not lost on me or anybody who's got kids. And at this hour, funnily enough. Is that what you just said, Carrie, is that there's an awkward, they're not comfortable. She's probably free. She might forget he's there. Like, you sit down to do something like read and you think, oh, I've still got a guest.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah.
He doesn't have a studio here.
So,
he doesn't know what to do now in this space.
That's right.
She's got to entertain him.
It may be when he starts to push hard and say things like, which children can do when they're angry, seems to me it must be pretty much the same to you whether I'm here or not, that you can deny, you can push back. You have to make a decision. When you say it's true, I've lived without you, how much are you willing to tell him at this moment? So each one of those things is kind of a decision.
Yeah.
And the same thing with him.
What she finally tells him is very compassionate.
Yes.
So she's not going to tell him, how would she come this far? She's built the orphanage. Why would she tell him anything?
Because he's just made love to his half sister.
Well, but I've sent her down to the basement to work on the wreaths. So
you've sent her down to the basement, but that problem is hanging in the air and is going to have to be dealt with. Yeah. So let's just look at that much. And then I have some stuff that, are you puzzled?
No, I'm not puzzled at all.
And I have some stuff I want to play with Albert, when we get into the moment where you start telling her how sick you are.
Okay.
Which is just a thought. I'm not sure I'm right, but I think that this diagnosis you've been given is so confusing and so terrifying that in a way you need to say it. It's a relief to say it, just to put it out there and to see what she's going to say, because your mother has told you your father was a saint. Now you've gone to a doctor who says, you have an inherited disease. They never use the word syphilis, but that's the implication. And you got it from your father. And you think, well, that simply can't be possible. He was a saint. But there are only two choices. If you didn't get it from your father, you got it from yourself. One of the choices we're going to have to talk about when we rehearse is, are you sexually promiscuous or not? It does not feel from the text that you are. And if you're not, do you believe that you brought this disease on yourself? So those questions are very alive in your mind. You want to know what your mother thinks. Well, of course, for your mother, the guilt is unbelievable because you know the truth, right? Immediately. So my question for you, Mary Elizabeth, is where do you think it starts to drop in what's really going on with him.
Right.
And that's just for you to think about. So my last note is, don't ever just drop the word truth, because if you count the number of times it's said in this scene, it is considerable. So when you say things, Albert, like, eventually I called the doctor and that's how I learned the truth. That word, we think truth is a good thing. Truth becomes a terrible thing, and it keeps coming up over and over again. And I think the more you say it, the less sure you are that it is the truth. But however you feel about it, don't drop it. Like, lift that word.
Got it.
You want to test her to say, is this the truth, mother? You're my mother. Tell me the truth. So try, both of you, to sort of resist the urge to get too private. Stay on your front foot.
Right.
Either, if you get ambushed, Mary Elizabeth, try denying, see what that does. Try changing the subject, try taking it in. What are all the different things that happen when you get ambushed?
And he does the thing, Carrie, that it's Oswald in this scene that says, and now I don't want to talk anymore about it.
That's right.
Elena does it so many times in the script, Albert. She goes, and now I don't want to talk anymore about it.
Yep.
Now we're changing the subject, you know.
Well, there are many ways that
Learn from the
Ibsen has
best.
written,
Yes,
like,
that's right.
and like mother, like son. And they also both have very ambivalent feelings about the pastor right now. So that's interesting. In fact, that's kind of fun. So should we go back to the top? Did Pastor Manders leave?
Sure. Yeah.
And he's in the other room, by the way. So
What, he's in the other room when he says that.
Yeah.
And you've kind of, you're right, forgotten that he's there, because it's off stage, really. And you've been in the middle of this very intense scene with the pastor, and then you've sent the pastor off to the orphanage. Yeah. I may dive in the middle, but I may not. Let's see how we go.
Okay. Did Pastor Manders leave?
He went down to the orphanage. Oswald, dear, you should be careful with that. It's quite strong.
No, it helps against the damp.
Wouldn't you rather come in here with me?
But I'm not allowed to smoke in there.
You know perfectly well that cigars are fine.
Where's the pastor gone?
I told you, he's gone down to the orphanage.
Oh, yes, of course.
You really shouldn't sit so long at table, Oswald.
But it's so lovely to be home, Mother.
Mhm.
To sit at my mother's table and eat my mother's delicious food.
Dear.
I'm going to ask you to go back and just take a little beat. Where's the pastor gone? I've just told you he went down to the orphanage. Yes, of course. Now Oswald's in the room. Just let that moment hang for a minute, because if we were staging this, we might just have a little moment to explore what you just suggested, Mary Elizabeth, which is, do I invite him to sit? Do I stand up? Do I look? So, and then you don't know what to say. And then you say, you really shouldn't sit so long. And he says, yeah, but it's so great to be there. And he says, what else can I do? And she says, maybe you shouldn't have come home. And well, I don't want you to come home if you're not happy. It's that kind of weird, awkward thing. And finally, he starts to really push on you. So let's just hold that awkwardness a little.
Sounds
We
good.
have a lot of it because it's not to the third page.
I know that you sit down, but see what that feels like. Okay. Let's just go back to where's the pastor gone?
Okay. Where's the pastor gone?
He went down to the orphanage.
Yes, of course.
Oswald, dear, you should be
Oh.
careful with that. It's quite strong.
Well, it helps against the damp.
Wouldn't you rather come in here with me?
But I'm not allowed to smoke in there.
You know perfectly well that cigars are fine.
Where's the pastor gone?
I just told you he's gone down to the orphanage.
Yes, of course.
You really shouldn't sit so long at table, Oswald.
But it's so lovely to be home, Mother. To sit at my mother's table and eat my mother's delicious food.
Dear, dear boy.
And what else is there to do in this gloomy weather? Not a glimmer of sunlight the whole day. This not being able to work.
Maybe it wasn't a good idea for you to come home, Oswald.
But Mother, I had to.
Because I would 10 times rather forego the joy of having you with me than to have you be.
But tell me, Mother, is it really such a joy for you to have me home?
Is it a joy for me?
It seems to me it must be pretty much the same for you whether I'm here or not.
Can you say such a thing?
You seem to have had no trouble living without me all this time.
It's true. I have lived without you.
Great. Okay. I just want to stop at that one moment. That was fantastic. So I really felt the tension. Where was the scene going to start? And when he launches this, let us imagine, always a useful rehearsal device anyway, that he has never said anything like this before. When he asks you, is it such a joy? And I thought it was so beautiful, Mary Elizabeth, that you looked so shocked he would ask you that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a joy for me. And then he says, it seems to me it must be pretty much the same to you. How can you say such a thing? Just remember that about half an hour before, you were accused by the pastor of being a terrible mother, of having failed as a mother. So when he says you seem to have had no trouble living without me all this time, let that land on you. Let it wound you, perhaps. You make a decision to not take it on. You say, it's true, I've lived without you, because you can't explain that you sent him away so he wouldn't find out his father was depraved. But I'd love to just see the echo of what Manders has said to you, that wounds you. He's never talked to you that way before. Does that make sense?
Yes. Also, I would like to point out that I kind of skipped over. It's the first time we hear the word joy, I think, isn't it?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and joy is going to be a crucial word in this play. So let's go from there. Let's go just 2 lines before where you say to him, maybe it wasn't a good idea for you to come home, Oswald. Do you see where
The
that
other thing, Carrie, when I was reading through it, I thought, my God, is she trying to get rid of him, given the fact that she's, I mean, what a thing to suggest. Maybe it's time for you to leave.
she'd rather forego the joy than have him be unhappy. So
well, also there's the thing with Regina that I just
exactly.
So,
Yep. Very
she ain't perfect either.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe it wasn't a good idea. Let's go from there.
Maybe it wasn't a good idea for you to come home, Oswald.
But Mother, I had to.
Because I would 10 times rather forego the joy of having you with me than have you be so.
Tell me, Mother, is it really such a joy for you to have me home?
Is it a joy for me?
Seems to me it must be pretty much the same to you whether I'm here or not.
How could we say such a thing?
You seem to have had no trouble living without me all this time.
It's true. It's true. I have lived without you.
Mother, may I sit with you?
Yes, dear, yes. Come. Sit.
I have something I have to tell you, Mother.
What is it? What's that?
I couldn't bring myself to write you about it since I was coming home.
Oswald, what is it?
If you promise to remain calm, I'll do my best to tell you. You know, I've been complaining about how tired I am after the trip here.
Yes.
But that's not what's wrong with me, not exhaustion alone.
You're not sick, are you, Oswald?
No, not really sick, Mother. Not what people generally call sick. But still, I'm ruined, destroyed. I'll never be able to work again.
Oswald, look at me. This can't be true.
Never be able to work again. Never. Never. Living as if dead. Mother, can you think of anything worse?
My poor boy. No, how can such a thing have happened to you?
That's what I don't understand. I've never lived a particularly wild life, not in any respect. You have to believe me, Mother, I haven't.
I believe you, Oswald.
And still, this terrible thing happens to me.
It'll be all right. Believe me, you've just been working too hard.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back and ask you to do one adjustment, which is this. So good, guys. It's beautiful. When you start to unleash and you say, that's what I don't understand, Oswald, I've never lived a particularly wild life. Ask her to help you understand. Do you know what I mean? Really need her. So it's not just telling her, I haven't screwed around in Paris, but help me understand how a person like me who has tried to live an ethical life could be tainted this way. Tell me what I don't know. You're my mother. Do you know what I mean? And she says, I believe you. And I think you do, Mary Elizabeth. I mean, I think you trust him there. I think.
I just assume he's young. It's nothing. You're tired. Actually, Carrie, I was thinking when he first sits down, which is kind of irrelevant. I don't know what he's going to say. He could say, I have 2 children in Oslo. I have a wife. I don't know what he's going to say.
Exactly.
Exactly. More importantly, I've got a family.
Could be anything. Yep.
Could be anything.
I think I love the choice you made because you didn't get upset right away. And you, in fact, were very pragmatic and said, come on, how could it happen? And this can't be true. And it's fine. And so he needs to find a way in to help so that you can help him understand what's happened.
But also, Carrie, if on the day I kind of continue knitting, I'm going to be a harder person to get it,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. And he just doesn't even know how to explain it. So let's just go back to Oswald, never able to work again. Never, living as if dead. And she doesn't know what you're talking about. And then put it on her. Okay.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Do you want me to lead you in? Oswald.
Sure.
Oswald, look at me. This can't be true.
Never able to work again. Never. Living as if dead. Mother, can you think of anything worse?
Poor boy. No, how can such a thing have happened?
That's what I don't understand. I've never lived a particularly wild life, not in any respect. You have to believe me, Mother. I haven't.
I believe you, Oswald.
And still, this terrible thing happens to me.
It'll be all right. Believe me, you've just been working too hard.
I thought so too at first. But that's not it. Shortly after I was home the last time, I started having these violent pains here in the back of my head, like someone was screwing down an iron band. And at first I thought they were just uncommonly severe headaches, like the ones I used to have when I was growing up. But they weren't. I couldn't work. I couldn't compose my thoughts. Everything swirled around and around. I tried to start a new painting, but I was paralyzed. It was like my talent had abandoned me. Eventually, I called a doctor, and that's how I learned the truth.
What do you mean?
Whoops. Okay. We elided truth again. So put it on her. That's how I learned. And now make her believe the truth. And she thinks, oh, fuck, excuse me, but like, what truth? I don't want to know the truth. So suddenly, and the reason I bring it up is when we do the play, this woman who has spent the whole first act extolling the crucial importance of telling the truth is being told by her son, now I'm going to tell you the truth. And she doesn't, what truth? It's terrifying to know. So let's just lift
Yeah.
the curtain. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah. I thought so too at first, but that's not it. Shortly after I was home the last time, I started having these violent pains here in the back of my head, like someone was screwing down an iron band. At first, I thought they were just uncommonly severe headaches, like the ones I used to have when I was growing up. But they weren't. I couldn't work. I couldn't compose my thoughts. Everything swirled around and around. I tried to start a new painting, but I was paralyzed. It was like my talent had abandoned me. Eventually, I called the doctor. And that's how I learned the truth.
What do you mean?
He was one of the foremost doctors in Paris. I told him how I was feeling. And then he started asking me about things that seemed to have no connection. I didn't know what the man wanted.
So?
At last, he said, from birth, there's been something rotting inside of you. There was the word he used, vermalu, worm-eaten.
What did he mean by that?
I didn't understand either,
Mhm.
so I asked him to explain. And the old cynic.
What did he say? What did he say?
He said, the sins of the father are visited upon the children.
Sins of the fathers?
I nearly hit him in the face.
Sins of the fathers.
Yes. Just imagine. Naturally, I assured him that such a thing wasn't possible. But do you think he listened? No, he stuck to his opinion. It was only after I took out your letters and translated all the parts about father to him.
And then?
Well, then he had to admit he was mistaken. And that's when I learned the truth. The stupid, incomprehensible truth. It was all my own fault.
Oswald, no, you mustn't believe that.
There's no other possible explanation, he said. And that's what's so terrible. Everything I wanted to see, everything I wanted to do, everything I wanted to accomplish, just wasted. And bringing all this pain to you, Mother, I've often wished and hoped that deep down you really didn't care so much about me.
Oh, no, me, Oswald.
Okay, great. I'm going to give you one more adjustment before we stop. This is beautiful. So go back. And I would just like to suggest this, Albert. It's not quite so resolved in your mind. Do you know? Because it doesn't make sense. The doctor tells you you've inherited it, but you can't have inherited it if your father was a good man, but you can't have acquired it yourself because so this is what I mean by needing your mother. Maybe she will explain. Do you know? There's something rotting inside you. You know, maybe he will get some clue from her. Do you know that will help him understand what the doctor told him? Maybe he's just not getting it. Or she'll say to him, oh, no, let me explain to you. Or let me tell you the truth about your father. This could be the moment in the play, by the way, from an audience point of view, where we think she's going to say to you, my darling boy, I absolve you of all anxiety. Your father was a syphilitic sybarite, and it's not your fault. But she doesn't. So see if you can get a clue from her. Use her. Maybe she'll explain. And see what that does to you, Mary Elizabeth. Do you have a thought, Emmy?
No, I mean, it's hard to, if we're not actually looking in each other's
I
faces.
know.
No,
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard. 10
Yeah.
days, Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Very soon.
I'll ask. Let me just, okay. Okay, I see. Okay. Okay, we can go whenever.
Yeah, I just think maybe there's more pressure on you if that you'll give a clue, or you'll say, what did he mean? Or you'll tell him something that he needs to know. He's in a quandary. So even though the doctor says it's the truth, is it really the truth? So let's go from where he was one of the foremost doctors in Paris. I told him how I was feeling, and then he started asking me things, and just put that confusion onto your mother. Mothers know best. She'll explain it all to you, won't you?
Yeah.
Okay, you see where I am?
Yeah. He was one of the foremost doctors in Paris. I told him how I was feeling, and then he started asking me about things that seemed to have no connection. I didn't know what the man wanted.
So?
At last he said, from birth, there's been something rotting inside of you. And there was a word he used, vermelu, worm eaten.
What did he mean by that?
I didn't understand either. So I asked him to explain, and the old cynic.
What did he say?
He said, the sins of the fathers are visited upon the children.
The sins of the fathers.
I nearly hit him in the face.
The sins of the fathers.
Yes.
Oh.
Just imagine. Naturally, I assured him that such a thing wasn't possible. But do you think he listened? No, he stuck to his opinion. It was only after I took out your letters and translated all the parts about father for him.
Then?
Well, then he had to admit he was mistaken. And that's when I learned the truth. The stupid, incomprehensible truth. It was my own fault.
Oswald, no, you mustn't believe that.
But there's no other possible explanation, he said. That's what's so terrible. Everything I wanted to see, everything I wanted to do, everything I wanted to accomplish wasted. And bringing all this pain to you, Mother. I've often wished and hoped that deep down you really didn't care so much about me.
Oh, me, Oswald.
Okay, now, so when that was amazing. When you say the stupid, incomprehensible truth, it was all my own fault, Mrs. A, I think you have to stop that thought in its tracks.
Okay.
You mustn't believe that. Of course, he has to believe that unless you're willing to tell him the truth about his father. But I think if you really try to erase that thought from his mind, then he's even more, then something else happens between you, which will take us to the end of the scene. And I think, Oswald, it's that you have a moment after you say all that I wanted to accomplish wasted, where you look at her and you see how horrified she is. Of course, her horror is her own guilt, but what you see is that you've brought sorrow on her because of your condition. So they misunderstand each other in a beautiful way, but that's when you realize how much you love her and that you wish you hadn't told him that. And you are going to have to make a decision whether you're going to tell him the truth or not, Mrs. A, right? And I'm not saying you have to know any of that now, but just try to stop him from thinking badly about himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So from the bottom, if you could go from the end of your monologue where you say, sorry. It was only after I took out your letters and translated all the parts about father for him, somewhere in there. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, yes.
But do you think he listened? No, he stuck to his opinion. It was only after I took out your letters and translated all the parts about father for him.
Then?
Well, then he had to admit he must be mistaken. And that's when I learned the truth. The stupid, incomprehensible truth. It was all my own fault.
Oswald, no, you mustn't believe that.
There's no other possible explanation, he said. And that's what's so terrible. Everything I wanted to see, everything I wanted to do, everything I wanted to accomplish, wasted. And bringing all this pain to you, Mother. I've often wished and hoped that deep down you really didn't care so much about me.
Oswald, my son, my only child, the only one in the world I care about.
Yes, I can see that. When I'm home, I can see it. And that's one of the hardest things for me. But now you know. And now I don't want to talk about it anymore. Please, mother, may I have something to drink?
Drink? What do you want to drink now?
Anything. I'm sure you have something in the house.
And then she goes to pull the belt pull. Yeah. Whoops. Beautiful. So at the end, I think what we see is how much they really do love each other, this mother and son. And I thought that was really beautiful when you said that he's the only one in the world that you care about. And he says, I can see that. And so in some ways, I'm home and I can see it. It's one of the hardest things, but now I don't want to talk about it. It's almost as if by having confessed, he's put that ship out to sail and maybe something will happen. Mm. Maybe she will save him. Maybe, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a great scene. And I know we could work on it forever, but we said it would be a brief Valentine interlude.
Oh.
Oh, any last thoughts, either of you? What did that feel like last time through for you?
Yeah, I love to hear also like what you would work on next, right? What would be the next thing you would want to get, right, from either the actors or you, Carrie?
What about you guys?
Particular snippet. What would you try to? What layer would you try to add?
Well, I think like when I've been working on it, just having the script, Oswald's language just comes across as so like just dramatic and gothic and like just big and over the top. And it's like, how do I have those big feelings, but also, just have that joy still, because he still loves living life, and trying to couple that in there. And Carrie had some really good like notes on, don't think it's resolved for you, right? You're trying to get help from your mother. And I think that's like a really great spot for me to dive in more into, is like, help me, Mom, because everything is messed up and I don't know what to do. And like, you're my mom, like, like rub my hair, please. Like right now, like,
make it okay. Yeah.
I think
what about you, Mary Elizabeth?
What about me?
Yes.
I have found, I think I've discovered that I need a year's lead into most things I've done in my life, and I haven't, but it's taking it absolutely one syllable at a time, because and looking at other people, what they're saying, because you say truth, I say truth, you say joy, I say joy. It all, and Paul Walsh has taken so much of the extraneous verbiage out of the original play, or the original Ibsen. So it all hinges beautifully on everything else. And I'm up in the middle of the night going, no, wait a minute, when does that, I can't wait to get everyone together just to see how the years all fit together, because it gets less threatening the more you work on it. The more, I sometimes think it should be called something other than ghosts, but that's my own idea, because people have this idea of this phantom coming in, and it's actually all the little voices in your head. It's all those.
When it was written, it was definitely about ghosts. Now we're much more.
It is. And I think, it's just about how we navigate the present moment when the past never stops coming back to haunt us. And yet I love what Albert just said. I mean, I think the way to keep this play alive is that there is the possibility of joy somehow. She adores him and she's so thrilled. If they could only get that orphanage open, they could put the past to rest and they could move forward in the world. And she believes in him and he sort of believes in her. And nobody his age who's an artist sort of thinks, oh, it's all really over. So he can storm around and say, I can't paint anymore, but something could happen, you know? And so we keep having to, I think what I would want to work on is just how to keep pulling the thread of possibilities forward. And also, I would say they are learning how to be mother and son now.
Really, yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing because they don't know how to be that. You know, we all, not you, Albert, because you're so young, but the three of us on the top of the screen all have adult children.
Yeah.
And one of the amazing things about having adult children is, you know, you learn how to be a parent in a different way once your child is a grown-up, you know, and that can be fantastic and amazing. But if you haven't had all the steps in between, you got to learn it. But they do have pleasure in each other. Yeah.
But apart from that, what I think Ibsen reveals for Helena, because she's, apart from the young people, she's the only one, she keeps learning. He keeps revealing things. The last step of the mortal dread is the final, you know, I mean, what she has to, when she finally cuts Alvin some slack and says, he was this, you should have seen him. I mean, I didn't love him. I didn't much like him, but you should have seen him. He was magnificent. And then this guy had to come here. And it all, of course, whatever happened had to happen. So she herself
is learning,
is able to say, I was wrong. I was wrong too.
Yes.
I was really wrong. We were wrong for each other, right. But I made this house miserable for him. You know, I didn't know how to do anything else. I'm not cutting, you know, but it's, so it keeps going to the very, very.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And it's ongoing. It's, I don't know.
So team Bill, you'll all have to come up to Seattle Rep.
So I've got to come up and see this now.
It runs the whole month of April.
Jet up there.
See all of you up there.
Yeah, what an intriguing peek at the beginning of a wonderful, what looks like it's going to be a dazzling production. You know, just bringing the two of you act to it, and Carrie's like bottomless dramaturgy and understanding of Ibsen history and all the productions that have been done. Yeah, maybe we'll have to have a San Francisco patron field trip.
We would love it. If you do it, we'll host an oyster party for you afterwards.
Oh, there's some great oysters up here.
I know.
Yeah, well,
thank you, Bill, for giving us a chance to play with it a little.
Yeah, that was just a joy to watch. You know. Yeah, and just I love the way it was developing, you know, just the little pieces. It's great. That's what's great for our audience to see the effect the director has on a piece that is growing and changing in the notes, the way the notes aren't, and like you said, the notes aren't always right, but they send somebody down a path where the actor discovers something, you know, and you try that, and then that spins off of this, and pretty soon we're circling and building quadrants around whatever the truth, our moment of truth in theater is going to be. So it's great to watch that happen. So thank you, and thank you all for joining us tonight at our first Zoomlet, or our Zoomlet, the first we'll have two more coming up in the next 2 weeks. Next week, we're going to have a wonderful play, a short play called Upstream, Downstream, and it's by Sam Hamashima. And it's going to be directed by Mei Liang, who is the artistic director of Ferocious Lotus Theater in the city. And we're actually about to commission Sam to write a new play for San Francisco Playhouse. So this will be another little sneak peek at a wonderful, exciting new voice in the theater. And we hope you will all tune in next week to see that. And also, you heard Carrie say it earlier, but we hope you will all make Heroes of the Fourth Turning. It's a very, very challenging journey into the Empathy Gym for our local audience. And I think people are finding it very rewarding, and it plays through the 6th of March. So Please
And
do.
Bill's Valentine, Susie, and Vera, who's on with us, are extraordinary in it. It's an amazing cast. So bravo. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, Albert and Mary Elizabeth, I'll see you in Seattle.
Well,
You
Thank
both-
Yes.
thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
see you all at the theater. Thanks so much for watching our Zoomlet tonight. Bye.
Ciao.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Okay.